Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting on September 19th, 2023. May I have a roll call, please?
Teresa A. Moss, present.
Joseph Shank, present.
And Chad Sexton Duranian, present. And let's have a pledge of allegiance to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everyone who is in service with the country, past and present, and our first responders. I appreciate your service. The meeting is going to be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. It's also live on Channel 9. 1.4 Chairman's additions and deletions. I have two additions. I'd like to add the Conservation Commission fee schedule to 4.5. And I would also like to add, there's an appointment to the Highway Department, and that will be on 3.2.
Okay.
We will also be reviewing and approving minutes for 7/25. Anything else, Teresa?
Yeah, I'd like to just have a general discussion on one-day passes that we authorize.
1 day pass.
Liquor license.
Liquor licenses, okay.
I was actually gonna bring that up under town administrator updates.
Do you want to do it there? We can do it there.
We can do it there.
We can do it there, okay. Anything else? No,
I'm good.
you're good? All right. 1.5, review and approve the meeting minutes for 7/11/23 and 7/25/23. So I would entertain a motion for approval for both, approval for minutes on 7/11 and 7/25/23.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I didn't see anything on the 11th, the 25th, I read real quick, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I read it kind of quick, but neither one to me.
No.
Yeah, the discussion on transferring the car with Townsend Ford, that was after the 7, right? The 7/23. I thought it was on the 7/25 meeting. That came later, right? Because there was no mention of it. It's all right, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It wasn't in the meeting, so I think it
Yeah.
must have been later.
Yeah, I don't remember when we discussed it, but I think it was before that because it was early in July when we finalized it. Wow.
Well, then,
So
No, it was in August when we
I think it was in
finalized the
August,
truck, when it
because
was
I-
the beginning of August.
Then we kept the truck because we were gonna think about giving it to
Yeah.
the building inspector, so just last meeting, we talked about just gonna go back out and put it up, so that's when that
Yeah,
was.
but that, yeah, we've had,
Wait till
we've had a couple of
August.
Yeah,
discussions.
that was last week's meeting, so that would be September, whatever was second or something, right?
Yeah.
Two, whatever that meeting was.
Yeah, I think we might have had discussed in the last meeting in August about it, because that was after we got the evaluation from Townsend Ford to make sure it was okay.
Right.
okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Appointments and hearings, we don't have any today. 3 appointments of officials and personnel. I'll entertain a motion for David Zamini as truck driver, laborer to the Highway Department, effective 9/19/23 with a start date of 9/25/23.
So moved.
Second. Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? I saw that, James sent in all his paperwork, so I'm okay with that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3.2, Highway Department also sent in another, so I'll entertain a motion for Tim Safardi as heavy equipment operator, effective 9/19/23 with start date, I would assume, of 9/25/23.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
hopefully this will help Jim and fill his roster.
Yeah, we need to get some bodies in there before.
Before winter picks
Snow,
up.
before
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah, this is the same, it looks the same, so that's, I just wanna make sure I had the right dates on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye. 4.1 proclamation for Lindsay Morant. You wanna give us a little background on that? You don't know too much about it?
No, I don't know. This came from via request.
Yeah, this is, I didn't bring the, did I bring? No, I didn't bring, it's an award that's given out every year.
Named after Chief Mayor, right?
Yes, yes. And, I had a piece and I didn't put it in my folder, I apologize, but it explained exactly what the award was. And we had we've all been invited to the dinner that they're going to be having honoring Lindsay Moran. Lindsay's done a lot of work with the town. I'm not gonna read the proclamation here because I wanna be able to do it in person when we do it but we can put it up on the website afterwards. I'm sure that would be more appropriate. But I guess what we're looking for is just an approval that you've read the proclamation and that you're approving of it.
Yep.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the proclamation written for Lindsay Moran for the William E. May Endowment Fund Award.
So moved.
second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
And then there was an official one.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody signed that. Okay.
So looking forward to that. Yeah, that's a really
I
fun
will
time.
be attending.
Yeah.
You'll be attending?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Teresa, are you attending?
I said yes, but with me, it's always speculative.
It's always a
But I'm
question.
doing my best to attend.
4.2, this is our big item of the day, I think. Review and approve the consolidated police union contract. That I know you know about.
Yes. So, as the board, I'm sure remembers, we already met and approved the amended agreement that had the specific changes that were being made from between the town and the police union. And that included, you know, the cost of living increase plus them agreeing to accrued vacation and several other relatively minor changes. We are trying to, with all of our unions, stop the process of having a really old agreement and about 18 side agreements, amending them. So I'm going to credit Chief Sartell. Chief Sartell sat down with the union president over the course of a couple of weeks, and they worked to consolidate all of the old amendments and the newest amendment that the board already voted into the consolidated agreement. That included that unfortunately, because sometimes when you make these changes, you don't anticipate how many parts of the union agreement a change touches. So there was a lot of kind of working with the union and the chief to make sure that everybody understood the changes that were being made, why they were being made, because they were reflecting earlier changes that had been agreed to in this agreement. So the board is not voting on any substantive changes that have not already been voted on. Everything that's in this agreement is something that this Board of Selectmen or an earlier Board of Selectmen and an earlier amendment has already agreed to. This is just finally getting we can finally get rid of all those old amendments and have one document, one coherent document. And quite frankly, going forward, we're going to try to do this every time we have a change
Which I think is
with the
really good.
unions.
It's also going forward with our ideology on certain other areas too. And vacations and all of that, we're making sure that each union has everything together, so I'm very happy with it too. No, we've already voted on it, didn't we? So we
Yes.
just need to.
So you have voted on the amendment change. There are some, again, there's some minor, when there was an earlier amendment that said vacation days will be X. It touched something else in the agreement they didn't anticipate, so when we tried to consolidate, they had to make another minor change. But it's not a substantive change, but it is technically a change to the agreement that the union's already agreed to and we've already reviewed, but it's not substantive.
Right, so my
So-
question is, do we still have to vote on
There
it?
would still be a vote to
Okay.
accept the consolidated union agreement that's before you.
Okay. So, I would entertain a motion to approve the consolidated, agreement between the town of Townsend and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME Council 93, Local 340, 3470 Police Union.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion on that?
no, thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
agree.
Chief Sartell.
Yeah,
And the union president over there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great to see it coming together.
Yes, Jay and David worked really hard to come to a meeting of the minds for this agreement, and I want to give them both a lot of credit
I agree.
for working on it and getting it.
This is
nailed
part
down.
of the new stuff that we're doing that I'm very happy with. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
aye. Aye, aye, aye.
I know when you do those things, it's you make one little change and it does affect so many different other.
Yeah, there's so many ripples that things sometimes touch that it's hard to, it's why I think quite frankly, they didn't consolidate all those amendments is because you think it's easy, but then it's not. And so people just say, oh, well, you just read the amendment. And so it's fine if there's only one. Once there's 11 amendments, it goes a little bit more.
Right, but when there's an issue, then we're like studying for days.
I know, you gotta-
Was the amendment on this year or this
Yeah.
year or?
And God forbid the amendment touched something, the issue touches something that an amendment changed, but didn't change it, yeah, then it just gets hairy. So this gives us a much more kind of like clean platform to work with the union.
Very happy with that. 4.3, review and approve properties for sale, 44 Fitchburg Road, AKA 1 through 5 Fitchburg Road and 106 Haynes Road.
So this is a kind of preemptively in advance of getting the approval from town meeting. So assuming town meeting also approves this, we wanted to make sure that we could try to put this with the auction. So we do the auction for 97 Main, the auction for 44 Fitchburg Road, and the auction for 106 Haynes Road on the same day. It's tentatively scheduled for October 27th. I've been in communication with both our tax title attorney and the auction house that the board chose to go with, and that the date seems to work right now.
Okay. I want to be clear, this is for a sale of property. It's already owned by the town and we want to sell it.
Yes.
It's not, we're purchasing.
Right, we're not buying anything. This is we've already agreed that we're gonna sell 97 Main. That's already went through the town meeting and the board already voted. We're trying to do this all at once in hopes of generating more interest by having multiple properties on an auction. And so we're gonna put I'm asking the board if they'd be willing. We've already put it on the special town meeting for next week, but I want to give this auction house a heads up so they can market it.
I'll just clarify, town meeting, we are not buying any property at special town meeting.
Absolutely
There
not.
has been some concern. People have asked, what are we buying? We are not
We are
buying
selling.
nothing.
We're
are
selling property.
Okay, just make sure everybody understands.
And both of these properties that are on here were taken for tax purposes. So there's money that needs to go back into the general fund for taxes out of the sale of these properties. And so that's what we're doing. We lost out on that tax revenue, and so we're gonna get it back by Sunday.
Yes, we need to get it back.
Hopefully we can get a little extra.
That would be the hope.
I think part of when things like this happen, when we do our budget, we're looking at the anticipated tax revenue that's coming in from what they are. And when the taxes aren't paid, that means that we don't have that extra, whatever we have, for it. So we have to make it up in some way. These have been on the tax rolls for a while.
Yeah.
So-
And If we don't take a piece of property and there's a tax debt that sits out there, it sits in a line in our accounting offices of, you've got money that in theory is going to come in at some point in time. Once you take it, that gets erased and you lose that anticipated tax revenue goes into the negative for those properties. And so this allows us to kind of, get the funds and put it back into the general fund. And as an extra bonus, if we sell them, it goes back on the tax roll and the new owner will be paying taxes. So it's kind of
So Sabrina is with us.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hi, Sabrina.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the properties for sale of 44 Fitchburg Road, AKA 1 through 5 Fitchburg Road, and 106 Haynes Road.
So moved?
Second?
Any further discussion on that?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 4.4, review solar canopy proposal for the COA library property.
So I've spoken to several folks about as the board knows, the special town meeting initially had a 25-year lease for solar canopies, one at the Library Council on Aging building and one at the police station. After kind of hearing back from the library trustees and talking to some other folks about concerns about the loss of the landscaping habitat and issue about the aesthetics of the library, I'm going to make a request that the board vote to remove the library from the 25-year lease request at the special town meeting. So I did reach out to the solar company and explain that to them, that we wanted to go forward with just the police canopy, that we would kind of, after the town meeting, assuming that go forward, we would, have some more conversations about it. It seems as though it's an uphill sale right now for the library canopy. And so rather than have that kind of taint what I think is a good project, which is the police canopy, we're gonna go forward with just that. I would request the board vote to amend the warrant article.
I think, take a vote, I agree with you. I think we as a board may have not really put all our ducks in a row to think that thing through really well. That's one of the nicest buildings in the town of Townsend. It was a gift, and I don't think that we, as a board of selectmen, should ever modify anything that was given as a gift, because that may have personal connections to the people that made that gift. And I would like to see that we talk about never installing solar canopies at that library, because that's not the place for it, and I don't think it's the right thing we should do.
I think that there was the cart before the horse in this particular situation as well. So I'm comfortable with just the police department. I think that is, there are other areas. I think going forward, we need to keep it at the Board of Selectmen level before it goes out to anybody else, just so that we can vet it first before. I had gotten a couple of phone calls in regards to, kind of caught me by surprise. And nothing was voted on with us. Nothing was really solidified in that respect. So I think going forward, we just need to make sure that we can, as I say at work, let's follow the chain of command within our own chain of command.
But it got out there, and I have to say the same thing, Chaz. I was caught off guard on Thursday night when I was absolutely questioned as, what were you thinking? Where did this whole solar canopy come from over the entire parking lot? And I knew nothing about it, but they said, well, you should know about it. We have a set of plans. Well, how do they have a set of plans and we don't have plans?
Yeah.
So I just think, my opinion, that library, and I'm gonna reiterate it, was a gift to the town. I don't think we, all three of us, or the town, should at any point modify such a gift of that magnitude unless it was 100% brought to the donor and the donor said, sure. But I just don't see
And that's the chain of command I'm talking about.
exactly.
So,
Thank you.
yep. No, thank you. Anything for you, Teresa?
I'm just curious, we're just talking the police station, but are we in the future talking other sites? Like I know Craven Field was mentioned once, different places like that were mentioned that.
Well, we were looking at the dump too.
Yeah, the
dump,
landfill,
I'm sorry.
I think the
Yeah, I
landfill
think-
is the main other site that we're looking at, and that's still in kind of in its
Somebody mentioned
infancy.
Craven Field, but me.
I think the first thing we have to do with as the board has already voted on with the landfill site, is try to determine how we can get three-phase power out there, and that, and so I've had a couple of conversations over the last few days about some creative ideas to try to get the three-phase power out there, and if we can do that, that becomes a very attractive site for solar, which I think is a little bit more out of sight, out of mind.
I think it's much more.
And I think it would provide
Reliable.
more bang for the buck for the town.
Get bigger.
Money. We could certainly offset the cost of energy at the library with the funds we're bringing in from solar at the landfill.
And again, I'm just trying to understand, like, we were just thinking about this and asked for, right? Okay, I want to make sure I got it right. We were like, okay, so you're a solar company, tell us what you think, give us an idea. How did it go from that to we are putting our solar panels, canopies here?
Well, so I think you're confusing the two different conversations we've had. They're two
Okay.
separate solar companies that we've had in front of us.
Okay,
The most recent one was the one that came and talked about the three-phase power and going to the landfill.
right.
Select is the one that we've been talking about for almost a year, I think.
But we never, like, saw the final, like, we were waiting on final,
Well,
what
there
the
was-
final would look like.
There were
initial ones.
There were
and it was
preliminary
on-
plans.
Oh,
There was an
really?
L-shaped
Outside,
one that went in
Oh,
front of us.
Outside, remember?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Out by the edge of the
Um,
parking lot?
And they had made some adjustments for efficiency, not in an attempt to make a larger proposal, because they're strict, just so everybody knows, they are getting incentives from the state to build the solar. That's how they're doing it in a way that they can save us money. Those incentives only allow them to put things over pre-existing pavement, and only allowed you to build enough capacity for the energy usage of the building that's being built adjacent to. So both of the proposals were for the same amount of energy generation. The second one, unfortunately, got a bit out ahead of its skis with some habitat removal that was not appropriate. And so rather than try and put a Band-Aid on it and come up with a slapdash proposal in a week and a half, we made the decision to ask the board to just pull back from that one and go forward with the police. And if the solar company wants to come up with a different proposal that addresses the concerns we have, we'll listen then. But right now, what we told them is we want to go forward with the police canopies only.
I just want to make it very clear that I don't support any kind of solar panels at the library. I don't think it's the right place. It just, once again, that is the nicest building we have. And put solar panels on them. Solar panels have a great asset for the community. I understand that. I get it. We need to do it. But there's a place and time, and that's not the place nor the time to do it. So I just want to be very clear where I stand, and I appreciate you somewhat supporting that.
Somewhat.
Well, but to not do it, but my point is not to ever do it. And I haven't got that out of everybody
But
yet.
ultimately, that decision, whether they add additions, solar panels, whatever, that is all taken up through the Board of Trustees, right? At
The
the
bo-
library.
The Board of Trustees would have to, for the library, it would require a vote of both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Trustees to move forward with any proposal. And for the police station, interestingly enough, it requires both a vote of the Board of Selectmen and approval of the police chief to go forward, because it's in Massachusetts, the police chief has control over the police station. We've already met with the police chief and the solar company, and he's comfortable with the idea of the solar canopies they've proposed, understanding that he's got some security concerns that we're gonna kind of work around, but it's a much more, I think, viable proposal at the police station. So what I would request is if the board would vote for us to go to town meeting and amend the Article 1 to have it be a request a 25-year lease for solar canopies only at the police station.
Can we still talk about this?
Mhm.
I mean, so I did meet with the police chief, and as you said, he does have some concerns, because there is a lot of security cameras around it. There's a lot that has to be protected at that police station. And if that solar canopy goes up, all that stuff has to be moved and modified. And quite frankly, we as a town and the police department don't have that money, extra $3,000 or $4,000 to do that. So in our talkings, we gotta be very adamant to these people that if they don't move cameras or whatever they don't do, they gotta pay, because otherwise it's putting a burden on us. We're gonna spend $3,000 or $4,000 that we don't got.
Yeah, so the discussion so the Chief Sartell and the solar company and I did have a conversation about this exact thing last week. They are running, so their statement was there are liability concerns with them actually running the cameras.
Mhm.
But they're gonna run the conduit. So there's empty conduit to be able to run the cameras directly and set up mounting for the cameras underneath the canopies. So what we would kind of do is, given that information, I'll be asking our facilities department to get a quote as to how much it would cost to do that installation, and then go back to the solar company and say, this is how much it's going to cost us if you do all this and we have to hire an installer, this is how much they're going to charge us.
And hopefully they're gonna pay it.
And
Well,
we're going to
have the
ask.
money. I mean, we don't, I don't know where you stand, Chaz or Teresa, but first and foremost, we have to make sure the security of that building is 100% protected. They bring all kinds of different people in and out of there, and I know they've had some issues with people around that building hours of the night. So I don't want us to do this to cost the taxpayers money. If they want to come in, they're gonna make the big dollar out of this. We're not. I have no issue doing it, but if something of that magnitude has to be done at the police station, why don't they pick up the tab? I'm all right with that.
Well, the end result is for us to save money on our energy. That's the end result. So
It
we
is.
will be making
Some money.
We will be saving taxpayer money by ultimately doing it. Again, this is one of those situations where, you have to give a little to get a little, in that
It
respect.
doesn't ever hurt to ask.
I would probably like to work more with I don't know if I'd want to work with our facilities department for the cameras. I think we should go with somebody that has much more knowledge on it.
We can talk to Guardian about running the cameras too. Yeah, we can do that.
Because that's.
Either way, the idea would be to get a quote so we know what kind of upfront costs we're doing and put that into the analysis of what we're going to save, because it's all going to come out in the wash, right?
Right, and we have.
If we're going to
Wi-Fi
save
grant.
more,
We have a Wi-Fi grant too. Would we be able to use some of that for those cameras?
that's the fiber grant. That's an excellent question. I don't know.
Can we talk with Brad about
I
that?
think we'll need to talk to Guardian about that. That's
If that's the case, we could.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Either way, I guess the underlying understanding is the police chief has to sign off on it. If Jay is not comfortable with the canopies and doesn't sign off on it, the lease doesn't happen. So I just want to give everybody that kind of level of comfort
Okay.
that he's got to be okay with it.
I'm good. So we're gonna make.
And on the converse, as far as the library is concerned, I respect the library trustees, and I understand that we have to work hand in hand with them. I do a lot of stuff for the library too. We're friends of the library, and I dress up on Halloween and have fun with the townspeople, but, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we as the Board of Selectmen, we just don't go out and do something to step on toes. We are trying to improve the town. We're trying to improve the systems of the town so that, at any time, I'm glad that people are comfortable enough to raise their concerns about it, because that way we're informed of what's going on. So I encourage that. Outside of that, I will entertain a vote to approve, taking the library canopies out of the town, the upcoming town meeting, and only going for the 25-year lease for the police station.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you getting your heckles up there, Mr. Shake.
Gee, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. 4.5 is the Conservation Commission fee schedule. I know that they've been working on this for a while.
Yeah, they have.
In regards to it. I know that before Jessica became the land use coordinator, she kind of initiated this, I want to say 2 years ago is when she started it, saying that our fee structure was kind of way out of whack.
Yeah, so I was thinking it was sometime before, right before I started, like the spring of 22.
Okay. So I've kind of followed this along the way. I think this is a representation of a fair appraisal. There's a lot of things that I think our town employees do that we don't really get compensated for. We always do a lot of extra work too on certain things that we don't get compensated for. And I don't think it's just a conscom. I think our planning board personnel and zoning, there's an awful lot of work that I know the administrator does on both of those end too. So they were adjusting those fee schedules as well. So does anybody have anything in regards to the fee schedule that they wanted to address?
I guess not familiar with, well, like, is it a 5% increase across? Like, I don't see the old numbers. Do we know what it represents?
It's not a basic across the board 5%. It's the labor intensive items are the ones that increased a little more than in cost of paper, cost of postage. It takes into account all of that, because any of those changes, for instance, they have to send things out to all the abutters of a property, and it has to be certified, so we know that it's gone out there. And just to send something, or the legal notices too have gone up considerably, that they have to put in the newspaper for any of their public hearings.
The goal of so when I had a conversation with Jess about this and with the other boards, the goal is to try and get as close to possible as the applicants funding the work that the town has to do for their applications. So if you come in and file an application for a Conservation Commission approved for a notice of intent, or some other work with the Conservation Commission, that all of the money that the town has to spend in staff time and paper and postage and filing fees, and we have to file things, in legal notices, that's covered with the application fee. And then we're not subsidizing people who are coming and asking for permits. And so to the extent that the fees were changed, it was with that kind of reflection. And that's not just here, but kind of across the board. My expectation from the staff was, if you're coming and asking the town for something that's just for you, you should be the one that pays for all of the staff time for it. The town shouldn't be subsidizing that staff time.
I will honestly say, I have built homes in other communities, and the town of Townsend is a real bargain with what we had.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to see these, I think is the right thing to do.
Bring it more in line with.
Well, it is, because when I worked in Shirley and different places, I mean, I would love to have just had to pay these fees, but, so I think they're well in line, and I think we need to support that.
Yeah. And
I have a second question. Is this the same language we had before? Filing after the work has begun may result in 2 times the fee?
Yes.
So how do we, I just hate anything that's arbitrary and capricious, right? I'm just like, what is may?
Well,
Like, what determines that? Is it a board decision?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a decision of the Conservation Commission after a hearing. And so the reason why I think you'll leave may in a section like that is to give the board, the commission, some sort of latitude for someone who who presents a legitimate reason as to why they didn't do it. What they were working off an old map that showed that it wasn't wetlands, and somebody said, hey, the wetlands map has changed, like that. You might not say that person was willfully violating the wetland statute because they thought they were outside of it. I know that shall is always black and white and much easier, but it removes the discretion for people who might be suffering an actual hardship and have an actual excuse, and that's kind of the challenge.
And then the last question, the federal definition of wetlands has changed. How does that impact the town?
Well, all of our jurisdiction derives from either the state Wetlands Protection Act or the local wetlands ordinance, and so the change in the federal definition doesn't
Doesn't
really
affect
impact
that.
people in Massachusetts unless you're on, unless you're on federal land or underneath federal jurisdiction for some other reason. But for us, shouldn't be an issue.
With the change, and that was a Supreme Court decision, right, the federal change,
Yeah.
could that facilitate somebody challenging the state's laws?
Well,
Just an opinion.
yeah, so town council would probably have a better answer, but in my estimation, someone who wanted to challenge the state's laws would have to go to the state Supreme Judicial Court. And the Wetlands Protection Act's been upheld by the state courts thousands and thousands of times. So I don't anticipate it because our state statute is based on our state constitution and the rights granted under the state constitution, and so it's not based on the federal jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's.
Okay, so entertain a motion to approve the Conservation Commission's fee schedule to be effective September 13th, 2023.
So moved.
Second,
Can we
Discussion?
make something effective?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Didn't know, just asking.
Yeah,
They voted on it at that particular
that
time,
point.
so
Okay,
it's
so it's
really their date.
we're just kind of giving them the thumbs up and you didn't want to.
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Five point zero, ARPA projects.
I just have a very brief update, which is the invitation for quotes for the building assessment hit the street last week. We've had 4 companies submit requests for the information. They haven't submitted anything to us yet. It's due by October 5th. So my hope that it's hitting the right people. So hopefully we'll get some folks back who are interested and willing to do the job. And as soon as I get any quotes back, I'll let folks know and we'll start to evaluate them.
I would like it if you could talk with Joe in regards to those when those come in.
Sure.
If you don't mind, I'd like you to head up that project.
absolutely.
That one, we need to get moving on.
Yeah,
because I want to make sure that the buildings are taken care of here.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Not for ARPA projects.
I got a couple of questions on ARPA, if you have the answers to them.
Okay.
Do we know where they are with the refrigerator unit for TEO?
I don't.
Um,
I haven't heard any updates on it though.
Okay.
I know they were trying to get, the last I heard, they were trying to build the
a
addition.
building, yeah, an addition.
In
And I
addition
don't,
to.
yeah,
house it.
so they could house it and get a little more room.
And
Right,
I haven't heard anything
if
since
They
then.
needed any help with anything or.
They haven't said anything, but I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
There's somebody,
We can reach out to them if you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to, if they're running into some difficulty, if they need something, if we can,
help them.
help them along, sure.
Mhm.
If they're anything like our food bank in Worcester, they're probably going strong, so,
Yeah,
I just wanna make sure. that-
they are. Tim Craven was in the meeting I was in this morning, and so she did say that they're handling double their
They
pre-COVID
do a lot.
numbers.
They do a lot up there. You see it
Scary, actually.
posted. Yeah, they're doing a great job for the community.
We're 372% in our food bank, more than what we've done, it's crazy, it's absolutely crazy. Okay, and, you and I are talking with Brad as far as the wiring for our ARPA piece that are here.
Yes.
We did have the assessment for the Wi-Fi in the building.
Yep.
I talked to Lance earlier, he's got a good idea of where the placement is to improve the Wi-Fi, both in, the offices and in, Memorial Hall. And then we should be moving very quickly on the wiring to
Yeah.
get TCAM downstairs.
Memorial Hall is a challenge, but that's gonna be,
It
just
is.
because of the space, it's
Yeah.
gonna be a challenge, so.
But I think they're up for it, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But it looks like we have all of our equipment in here. We're getting the meeting room 2 should be set up. I'd asked for that to be set up for Zoom. Our other owl will go down there. The ports are all fixed.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that.
Leo came in and reported that he fixed this
Yeah,
part, so.
so they have internet connection down there. I don't know about getting a laptop or a desktop or whatever we're gonna do down there.
They were ready to find out.
And then that way, meeting room 2 is gonna be completely Zoom compatible, so that's all ready to go. And then I'd like to move forward with the meeting protocols that we talked about. Did we get anything back from Adam on that?
I haven't heard anything from him. I've got a meeting with him next Tuesday. He's having office hours before the special town meeting, so I'll ask him about that.
Okay. Anything else from you guys?
Oh, you talked about dealing with that, the wiring. You asked me to reach out to the police and fire chief to set up, so they're gonna be all set there and everything, go to do that.
Yeah, that's a separate project,
Oh,
and I did
separate,
see,
oh,
yeah, but
okay.
they
It's from
did.
the fiber grant.
I see them, I see all the tickets that go through, and I just think everybody sees it, so I just assume everybody sees it, but anyway,
No,
he has set it up.
okay,
They're gonna be working with, their, internet people.
right,
So it's coordinated, they're all gonna do it, and Guardian and their internet and the fire and the police are all gonna be doing it together.
just wanna make sure you knew that I took care
Yeah,
of that.
no, I did, I saw the tickets come through, and I got the thumbs up from Guardian, because they've been waiting to put that on there. They get their marching orders from us, and then they wait for all of these extemporaneous things to happen, and we hear it when they don't. Town administrator, updates and reports, 5.1.
Sure, so there's a couple. The first is, as Joe mentioned earlier and Teresa mentioned earlier, the town car. So we're gonna try sometime in the next week or so to put together the request for bids for the town car as the board has voted on. So that will likely be a 2-week request. We'll put it out there. We'll see what happens. We don't have to accept anything if we don't get a number that we like.
Right?
Sealed bids,
Okay,
2 weeks, we'll see what we get.
perfect.
We know, we have a general idea what the car's worth, so we're certainly not gonna take less than that, but maybe we'll get a good number. And I'll let the board
If we
know.
get the number we're hoping for, we'll be all right,
Yeah,
right? So that's good. All right.
And the other thing, which is the thing that Teresa brought up earlier, and so I've actually heard from every member of the board separately about this, and the police chief separately about this, and the fire chief separately about this, and that is the one-day liquor license issue. As members of the board, as every member of the board already knows, there was a challenge, an issue with the one-day liquor license that we had been granted to a caterer that had an event over at Evans on Sunday, the 17th. Where they did not have appropriate controls on the alcohol not leaving the premises, and people were walking across 13 and walking around with their alcohol at the town common. So I have talked to Chief Sartell about it, which is I think the route we're going to need to go on this. And I think there are a couple of things that I would, I think that the town needs to do, as long as the board of selectmen is comfortable with doing them, which is number one. I'm going to work with Jay to write a letter to the catering company, expressing our concerns and disappointment about, their lack of control over the folks that were drinking and leaving the premises and going into the common where you're not allowed to have alcohol.
and I brought up the fact in that meeting that we needed to have a plan, and they said that they submitted the plan, but the plan was never executed.
And so that's a problem.
I do wanna, and not that, it shouldn't have got out of control, but I did contact the person once I saw what was happening and told her to get it in control or shut it down, one or the other, and she did within 5 minutes of my phone call, get the ropes up, get the signs up, no alcohol crossing the street, but
I think that
it should have been done.
that's the problem with that is if it was that easy,
Right, why wasn't it?
why wasn't it done? Because
The
you,
biggest thing we have to make sure of, that entire thing on the common and with Evans, that's a great draw for our community. And we don't wanna ever put the bad taste in anyone's mouth that it goes away, because I don't wanna hurt Evans or any of the vendors on the common. I just think that was a pinpointed problem that I think we as a board will have a better hand on it next time it comes in front of us.
Yeah, so,
We asked all the right questions on that's what, because I said, I saw it happening. I said,
If
how are
there-
you gonna keep them
I
there?
agree with you, and if there is any, as far as being a selectman, if there's anything I don't wanna have a problem with, that's what I don't wanna have a problem with, because that opens up the town to so much liability.
totally preventable, I think is the real
Yes.
issue. And so,
Yes.
the second piece of that is, I'm gonna sit down with Sabrina and with Chief Sartell and figure out how we make sure that it gets onto the police's radar, the specifics about what need to happen that day. I know that they are in general informed when the liquor licenses are issued. I think we just need to make sure that we kind of figure out a way so that that it's not just the police department being informed generally, but the specific officers who are on duty that specific day with the specific things that to anticipate.
How difficult
And
would
I
it
think they
be,
should have a contact too, so if something goes awry,
Yes.
they know who.
They know who to call, yeah.
how difficult would it be, especially if it's an outdoor event, to mandate a detail?
It would take a vote of the Board of
Vote of all
Selectmen
of us.
to mandate the detail. So, I mean, that's the thing I think the board has been loath to do because of cost, but it's something I think the board has to take into account now that somebody has flaunted the kind of the,
I mean.
I may.
Fool me
They do-
once,
they do
shame
these
on-
events all over the place, though. I mean, you go to Wachusett Mountain and it's 15 breweries and not a single one has a problem. They know how to rope people in and it doesn't have to be a police too. It's just a big bouncer sitting
think-
there and saying.
I think the issue that we're having is that when Evans has run these things several times, in the time I've here, they've had multiple ones.
Great job.
Everyone until Sunday was fine with no issues.
They had the same people doing it.
They had the same vendor
Yeah.
come in. This was a different vendor, a caterer, who we had never come in and worked with the town before. And so it would really be up to the board. If Evans comes back in with their own application with the same vendor that has worked well in the past, I think the board's gonna need to take that into consideration or decide.
I don't think we should, I don't think this conversation's going anywhere in the direction that we would not allow them to do it.
Correct.
Sure.
I do believe I'm correct in saying that. I just think we just have to be more particular about the alcohol being
Well,
sold.
and again, this is, for me anyway, being proactive on any situation is the most important thing. I can tell you that I did have a conversation with Sergeant, and things were taken care of, and they reported back that everything was fine and we didn't have a problem. So
Yeah.
I think that when we do approve a liquor license, maybe we should notify the police department. It's going to be on this day, so that whoever is on can at least police the beginning of it and report back to whoever.
And I think it probably just needs to be, I probably just need to work with Jay about putting it into their kind of standard operating procedure for the day of, there's a liquor license at X location on this date. Here's a
These
copy
are
of
their
it,
requirements.
and
Look at
somebody needs to swing by and look at it. And that would preclude us from having to require people to have a detail. And then, but if we continue to have, it's well within the purview of the board to say, you're gonna have to have a detail for this.
Yeah. and
If
it
that
was-
caterer came back, for instance, we might say, you're gonna have to have
And
a
it was
detail.
very difficult because you're watching, like I said, I have this young couple walking down, both with a drink in their hand, but both also with like $500 worth of shoes in their hand. So you
We don't ever wanna hurt.
I don't want
Oh,
to
yeah,
hurt the
we don't wanna hurt
business.
Evans, we don't
No,
wanna
absolutely.
discourage that, absolutely not. And I think their events,
They do an
I think
impeccable job.
this was this was definitely an aberration in the way that they have run alcohol events there in my time here. Yeah, it's an anomaly. So I think we just need to be more thoughtful about making sure the police have the right tools to be able to get out there and nip it in the bud, because my understanding is the police were there even before any members of the board were there, but they didn't have the tools to say, hey, you're in violation. And that's just the part of the circle that we need to close.
Well, when I finally communicated, it was like, hey, what's going on here, you know, so, I agree. So I think not only should they be notified, but I think somebody should be a point of contact for them.
Yeah, and I would leave that up to Jay, kind of like we'll give them the copy of the license with the contact information for the vendor. There just needs to be someone at the police department who's in charge of making sure that, because we're not gonna give it to every officer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the shift sergeant who's in charge.
Yeah.
You know, somebody in the police department needs to have ownership of it, and I think that's the one piece, because I think that's the one piece we just need to.
Well, I will say the 3 officers that were there were impeccable. They did a great job to the limits of what they could do.
Yeah, and once the word got out, they did tell people, you know, to dump it, and they did it in a really nice way. But in between time, they were handing out badges and having their photos taken with children. So
I want them to do that too.
They were, so it really was. It wasn't like it was a, you know, lockdown of the center and no more sales and stuff.
There's beer in the commons.
They just, you know, very quietly said,
One of the big things
dump it
that
out.
caught my eye was, we were there, my wife and I, we decided it's a great day, come see everybody and buy things, and so she said she'd like a beer. Well, I knew there wasn't rope, but we weren't gonna leave that area. But when we talked to them, they're like, oh yeah, no, we have a protocol, you know, they get a beer, they have to stay right here, they can't go anywhere. Well, while I was standing in that line, the people that were serving it saying, well, we don't take cash, but we give you this, give me your credit card, and we give you this little card here, and then you can get a beer, you go walk around, do whatever you want, come back and, you know, get another beer. When it's all done, just put that card in any one of those tips. I'm standing right, I wanted right then and there to say, what are we doing? But I didn't think that was the proper thing. But so, it just was a total colossal failure.
Again, the fact that they had it cleared up so quickly tells me that somebody knew how to do it right.
Yeah, just the fact that they had the tape there and stuff.
And
like
they had
that.
the signs.
And
And they had the signs.
and somebody screwed up. So that's a screw up on their part, and so I'll work with the chair. So as long as the board doesn't have anything else they want me to do, we'll send a letter to the
There is
vendor.
a second piece of it, it's less important, but the event got moved, and we really didn't have a protocol for that either, other than emergency things. So I think we need to think about that.
And I think that is a longer term view about how, I think what I might ask Sabrina to do is ask people to put rain dates on their proposals so that the board can approve one date or a rain date of X. That way there doesn't need to be scrambling to find you if they have to move it to a rain date.
Exactly.
Especially for outdoor
Yeah.
venues, you know, I mean, if it's an indoor, not as crucial, but for Evans, having a rain date. And so if they put that on their application, that will just say, you guys can just approve the rain date at the time you approve the regular liquor license, and that would be, I think, okay.
Oh, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay.
And that is what I had.
That's all.
My story, and I'm
It's
sticking
my
to
story
it.
and I'm sticking to it.
5.2, reports from board liaisons. General government.
So, the first thing I want to bring up, we haven't had the meeting yet, but I did want to double check with you, because I do want to get a meeting together, hopefully next week. I'll have my car back, with capital planning. Have they been sworn in? Have we figured out, I thought last meeting we talked about the members, getting the members of capital planning sworn back in?
Well, no, I think it was, didn't we reappoint Don? Was it Don Hayes got reappointed to the
Yeah. he
capital
did.
planning committee?
John Hayes did, yeah.
Got reappointed?
And who else?
And there was a
We just said we'd have them by this meeting.
He was in the he was a FinCom.
But Don wasn't. It was, Mark Hussey was the
Mark
finance.
Hussey.
And Jerry was on it.
Chris Masello?
Chris, Jerry, Mark. Don was on it.
No, what did we put Don, what was Don on that we had? Oh, that was the audit committee.
Right, Don was
Okay.
on the audit. So, yeah, so I think we just need to, because I don't think any, figure out who they're gonna be and then get a meeting on the calendar.
Okay, we can send out something to all those boards to get out.
We're getting further with green communities, so we're getting the energy commission. is moving forward with the grants with the green community.
Good.
This is probably just a general thing. Any progress on the crosswalks in front of Sterling?
No.
Okay. And that's all I have.
I will, if I can just help you with that a little bit. When we had our meeting here, Margaret Scarsdale, we got a little bit of a conversation, and I kind of brought up that you talked about the crosswalk. I know that Sterilite's been trying to do a light or something
A
safety-wise.
bridge at one point.
I
they were
think,
willing to
you
do.
know, and the bridge that they're trying, the walking bridge over the Squanicook to connect.
Well, maybe that's
So
right.
she's like, well, what seems to be the problem? So I got a little bit of a lengthy conversation with her, and I told her that, you know, Mr. Shepherd's been kind of really the one spearheading all that, and, you know, he's been kind of talking to me, so she asked me to get a letter from Mr. Shepherd to send to her, and I also sent it to the state rep, and, not state rep, no,
Senator Cronin,
not Cronin,
Lori Trahan.
Lori, and just, they were gonna look at it
Thank
and,
you.
you know, see what they can do, maybe can help us, maybe they can't, but Gary drew up a, well, let's say a very stern letter saying like, why can't we do this, you know? Fishing games, wildlife, they have a lot of land here, you know, they're like, let's move on. So that, to help you, so it is maybe now to another point. Might get somewhere, might not.
Well, Groton was here today. I should have asked them how they got theirs in so quickly.
Yeah.
Because they're relatively new.
So they got a lot more money than we do.
That's a state road. That didn't come.
It's the same thing.
Oh,
yeah.
what,
It's all about the landing it's all about the landings on either side. Like,
119?
if they approve the landings on either
There,
side.
it's not considered state in there, but that's how they got that paved. They paved that themselves.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Certain portions of 119 are not, it's a state highway, but it's not under MassDOT jurisdiction.
Right.
Unfortunately, those portions are not in Townsend.
Portion that got repaved was paved by Groton Town.
Got it.
So, because I jumped all over that when I said, hey, hey.
How'd you pull that off?
How did you do that? Show us that trick.
Then they showed me their coffers and I was like, oh, I'm from Townsend. Sorry. My bad.
No wonder where you can afford to eat at
Yeah,
Gibbet Hill.
exactly. Elected boards, we had, last night we had a joint meeting with the Affordable Housing Trust and, the Water Department. And it was they were looking for a pump station because they want to put a tank up on the hill there so that they can be able to expand the water on that area. And to be able to do that, they wanted to put the pump on a piece of land that the Affordable Housing Trust now owns. And they basically got the straw vote yes on it, so they just need more specifics on where the building's gonna be located, what's it gonna look like, that kind of stuff, so that they can move forward. But the Affordable Housing Trust is really doing a lot to look at forestry issues. They're looking at being able to put in age-restricted housing and all that stuff, so things are moving forward with them really well. It's nice to be able to work on a commission that we're able to move forward. It's really nice, with a 5-year plan even. I know that we have a lot of building permits right now. There's a lot of new stuff coming up or wanting to come up. There's a lot of business in town when it's coming to people wanting to come live here. And I just think that we need to keep moving forward with what we're doing to be able to provide, you know, a good community for everybody. And that means that we've got to do our best as selectmen to make sure that we're focusing on the things that the townspeople want to hear, like the roads, making sure that we're budgeting properly and making sure that we're making the right decisions for the town. So it's nice to be able to have that collaboration between the boards. And that's all I have from the last 2 weeks, I think. Public safety.
I've already said a little bit as far as with the police department. I mean, everything as far as he's concerned is going really smooth. Things are really great over there, generally speaking. He just really wants to make sure we as the board really address that. That is a financial burden on him if he has to pay anything out of his budget, because his cost of all the electricity, everything's gone up in his budget. He's really struggling. So he really wants to make sure we do everything we can in our power, that if they're gonna do that, they pick up that tab. The fire department, I think that's going very well. You know, I know Chief Shepherd and Eric are having a few conversations on a couple things that Gary has thoughts on, as far as rolling the ladder truck to a car accident versus maybe another vehicle instead of $1.5 million ladder to be as a rescue vehicle. Something that, you know, I've sat and
Makes more
listened.
sense.
Well, you know, every time you roll that $1.5 million ladder down in the middle of the winter, we have an opportunity if something could go wrong. And it's only rolling because it has all the jaws of life. And Gary's, I will say, in my conversation, I have a lot of conversations with him every day. He is really very proactive as to how are we gonna make sure we are doing the best we can for the community and stay one step ahead of a disaster that's waiting to happen.
Yeah, so just if I could follow up,
Yeah,
we've been talking about the possibility of trying to come to the board to request a reallocation of some ARPA money to buy a used emergency response vehicle. And so it's possible that we could get one that's equipped, either that's somebody's taken out of service, and every mile that we put on a used vehicle that we got for, say, $30,000 and didn't put on a $1.5 million ladder truck is a mile that we wouldn't have to pay for another $1.5 million ladder truck.
so that $1.5 million ladder truck's $2 million today,
Yes, if we're lucky.
if you're lucky.
Plus your 8% accelerator or whatever they're gonna add at the end of it. Either way, he is thinking about trying to keep that, like, extend the life of that ladder truck and keep it out of harm's way, except when it's absolutely necessary. And so he's still doing his due diligence on trying to find if the piece of equipment that he's thinking about is realistic. But the idea would be to have duplicate equipment from what's on the ladder truck on another piece of equipment that could roll out. And if something happened to it, you know, God forbid, we've lost a $30,000 piece of equipment rather than a $1.5 million piece of equipment. And so we've been talking about it back and forth. He's still trying to do his due diligence on finding a piece. I mean, he's looking at Canadian vehicles. He's looking very far afield for vehicles that might work. But there may be a future request for a reallocation of some ARPA funds to try and get that as not a Band-Aid, but more kind of like a buffer for the ladder truck.
It would be a frontline piece for him to run for a rescue truck.
Yeah.
I mean, as a retired firefighter, you know, we used to have that donated by the state, an old truck that we converted into a rescue truck. It had the jaws of life, had everything, but that's all it was really used for. And, you know, this new ladder truck, when it came around, you know, that got built and, you know, that's gonna be the new thing, but, you know, once again, you put $1.5 million ladder truck on the scene of an accident in the middle of winter, there's enough hazards already, someone slide into it, bang into it. I just think Mr. Shepherd is so proactive. I think his department, once again, he's got everything going. He's done all his internal stuff. So I kind of support where he's going, and I think the board in general supports it and make it go that way. Other than that, as far as fire.
I think it's the communication is the most important thing, because
Absolutely.
we did our 9/11 ceremony over there, and we were, I talked with both chiefs at some point during that time, and this is where all the information that we're getting, so nothing is a surprise to us. So I really enjoy the conversation that, you know, we're all working together as a team.
Open communication is huge. And then one other thing, I had a conversation again with Janet yesterday. I was in the building, and I don't know if she's gonna come up, talk to you, if she hasn't yet. Her computer's got a red line running right through the thing now. Asked once again, what are we doing about getting her to console so that system?
We are working on it. We gotta order it.
Yeah, the minute that the request came through, I approved the purchase, but it's
Oh, it's
already
on
got
its way
approved,
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so at least I can say, if you like, did you do anything? But now I can say,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
on order, as
We
soon as
have-
it gets here.
We have, correct me if I'm wrong, Sabrina. We have a laptop on order. She's gonna have a whole docking station right there at her desk.
Okay.
So that the laptop is gonna replace her desktop.
Right.
Her desktop then is going to be purposed so that that's going to be the kiosk for the billing, the,
Yes. The customers to come in.
yeah.
Perfect. All right, good. Well, that's good news. I can at least tell her, yeah, it's on order. It's
We
gonna
did
be
that, yeah, we did that.
I thought
right
2 weeks
after.
Yeah, we
ago,
did that,
right?
yeah.
Whatever, yeah, all right. Well, she
Those
just
are-
asked and I didn't have an
Those
answer.
could be, could be up to six weeks out.
Yeah.
It's the chips, it's about, they're still not everything as quickly as, the supply chain isn't as quick as we
Why,
like,
they
but
just sell plenty of chips at that grocery store.
Not
you
those.
listen to those commercials too much. We got plenty of chips, crunch, crunch.
That's all I have,
That's
sir.
all you got?
That's all I got.
Do you mind if I circle back around something real quick, which is, no, I apologize. We're gonna do that in the executive session. Never mind.
Announcements and communications. I didn't see anything in the communication.
I had one more. Any update on building inspector?
That was what I was gonna discuss in the,
Okay, perfect.
because that's what I was about to talk, and I realized it's a conversation with the union, so
All right,
we're gonna do it in the executive session, which is what I intended to do.
Anything?
Haven't.
Did you sell popcorn the other day?
Covering for my job run, you couldn't make it.
just a popcorn lady.
It was actually fudge and popcorn, but the popcorn was selling too, so homemade fudge.
Good. Well, it looked like it was very well attended.
Oh, yeah,
That was a big,
it was big.
big draw.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, every
It was a
street
perfect
around,
day.
there was cars parked. You go up School Street, you go up.
It rained so much, people were so happy to be outside.
And the Historical Society were like vouchers. Then they were like, do the survey, and they ended up getting over 100 surveys.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
33 using the Q code. Nobody over 65 did the Q code.
There's a shocker, right?
Yeah.
We don't know how to.
But yeah, 35 just doing the Q code, and the others on the paper.
Good.
And yeah, over 100. They're getting the facts together, and I guess they had the base facts, but they're weighting the questions and.
Yeah, they haven't
Weighted
put in
results.
all the weighted results yet, I think is
So
the last thing I
I
heard.
don't know why how they're weighting them, but they're weighting them.
Good. Well, that's weird. It's really nice to see when it's bustling down there.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
we
And a
have to-
lot
we have to
of,
move along, Mr. Eric has gotta go for his birthday cake. Gotta have his cake, come on, it's his birthday. Cut him some slack
A
today.
lot of 2024 calendars, town calendars sold. A lot of them almost ran out, so.
5.4, next meeting is October 3rd, 2023 at 6 o'clock. And I'll entertain a motion to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
We don't put the special town meeting as next meeting?
It's probably good to just say it. There is a special town meeting next Tuesday, September 26th at 7 PM.
So,
And I'll make a motion that review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
Second that.
second. So I'm just looking at our next meeting, just so everyone knows that I will be in for surgery on the week of October 23rd, so I will not be able to be available for meetings.
Okay.
Do we have, is that one?
What, we don't, but I didn't know when, but just so.
Because I think our following one would be the 17th. We have the 3rd and the 17th, and then we wouldn't have one till November, so.
I just wanted to put that in case some last minute we change,
Sure.
because you're away on vacation or something, just in case.
One time I take vacation. That's what I do.
Wow. He's still
Rubbing
stinging.
salt in
I
everything.
know,
He's
yeah.
still stinging on that one.
So there's a motion on the floor.
Second,
It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Alrighty. And I will, entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to general law, chapter 30A, section 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and the chair does declare.
So moved.
Second.
And adjourn from
And adjourn
executive
from
session.
executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.